And he says he approached the state government about this, suggesting the government could make it compulsory for councils to make sure new pools are being fitted with the right size chlorinators. He took this idea apparently to Australian standards and it ended up in the too hard basket. I mean, it sounds like a reasonable idea. What do you think?
I suggest that what the gentleman has done is not spoken to my department or to me, and that's not a criticism by any stretch of the imagination, but those kind of matters are probably, he's probably been speaking to the Department of Local Government or the Department of Planning.
So do you like the sound of that idea? Would you be interested in following it up?
I really need to get more information on that. I'm always open to new ideas, Nicole, if it means we can help with electricity bills or put downward pressure on prices. So if he can forward the details to me, I'd be happy to have a look at it.
Okay, look, you're going to introduce legislation to Parliament that looks at developing a new pricing method and tariff structure the Queensland Competition Authority can use to set power prices from next year. You say it will result in a more flexible and fairer pricing system. More fairer and flexible for whom, Minister?
Well, hopefully the vast majority of Queenslanders. This is where it kind of gets really technical and people's eyes glaze over when I start talking about whether our tariff structure have inclining or declining block tariffs. Basically, what that means at the end of the day, and there's not a bad explanation in today's Courier Mail about it, is that the tariff structure that is in place now has been in place around about 30 years. It was actually introduced by the former Bjelke-Petersen government, and it was introduced in a way to, I guess, as a sign of the times, to encourage people to use more electricity. So therefore, the more electricity used, the cheaper the tariff gets. Now, of course, 30 years on, that's not the way that we want people to use electricity. We actually want people to use electricity more efficiently because we also now understand the impact that it is having on the environment. So the work that we're doing now is to basically reward people for using less electricity because of how the tariff structure works. So you have a fixed charge in your tariff for the cost of the poles and wires that brings electricity to your house, and then on top of that you are charged for the amount of electricity you use.
I was always under the impression that it's not the quantity, it's actually the initial energy being connected to your house. That's the money. That's what costs. That how much you use is irrelevant.
No. On the contrary, you have what's called currently declining block tariffs. So between 0 and you can figure out 100, you pay a particular rate. Then from 100 to 200, you pay a less rate, and from 200 to 300, an even lesser rate. What we want to do is switch that around so that your first block of energy use comes in at a set amount, and then as you use more and more electricity at various thresholds, the price goes up.
Okay.
So what that means is that the big end of town, the big mansions, they will end up paying more for their electricity, but ordinary average users, that they will actually see prices come down.
Right.
Now, that work is going on over the next 12 months to be introduced from 1st of July next year. But what it does indicate, Nicole, is that we are doing everything we can as a government to find ways to offer electricity in the most cost-effective way. We understand people are hurting.
Yeah, people are. Yeah, they're hurting a lot.
And there are some harsh realities attached to that, including the fact that electricity demand is increasing at twice our population growth. That brings with it a significant investment in our electricity networks, and that's largely what is feeding the big increase in electricity prices that we've seen over the last number of years, unfortunately.
Okay, Stephen Robertson with me on 91.7 ABC Coast FM. An extended conversation this morning. We've been covering all sorts of things from electricity, as you've just heard, also the Gold Coast City Council's plan to hopefully disconnect itself from all connects. And of course, you were saying that if indeed they do forge ahead with that idea, that they will have to absorb the costs of doing that, and also perhaps ongoing costs, or if you like, compensating Logan and Redlands for making this move. Minister, we just had a call from a Disconex spokesperson by the name of Ashley Wain. He wants you and Premier Anna Bligh to come down to the Gold Coast for a public forum on water. Apparently he's livid at what you've said this morning. He says the Beattie government forced the council to hand back its assets, which has led us to the current situation. He claims the government threatened council with a $100,000 fine if they didn't do what they were told, and hand the assets back.
No,
is that true?
No, that is not true. Where all this...
Sorry, $100,000 a day.
Where all this reform comes from is not... it actually comes from the federal government. It comes from actually the Howard government that forced reform on all states in how it was called the National Water Reform Agenda.
Yeah.
What that came with was that unless states actually did reform, corporatised their bodies, went down the path that we've gone down, we would actually have been fined $100 million. $100 million in payments to Queensland from the federal government we would not have received had we not gone down that path. I stood, last time I was Minister for Natural Resources back in the early part of last decade, I actually stood and signed a certificate that I still have on my wall with the names of Campbell Newman and all the other mayors of South East Queensland that committed the state and all councils to go down this path.
Okay, yeah.
It was agreed to by council and the state government. So the current structure that we have in place has not been forced on council.
Look, John Brent would differ. I've spoken to many a mayor who would differ. But look,
I've actually got John Brent's signature on that certificate.
You've got everybody's signature on that.
I
know you do. Look, would you agree to a public forum?
Well, I'm happy to meet with Disconex. We've met with them before down to the Gold Coast.
But would you come down to the coast, obviously, because we're reaching crucial times with the decision by the Gold Coast City Council to explain the government's position?
Well, I think I've explained the government's position now on many occasions. What has to occur between now and 1st of July is that council's got to do the hard yakka to prove to their constituents, their ratepayers, that if they re-establish their water business, that they will be able to deliver water cheaper than is currently being provided by Disconex. That's where the real work has to occur. That's where Disconex have a role to play in continuing to meet with the council to determine that matter. We've set in place a 10-year price path for our bulk water assets. Basically, what is driving the bulk water charges is the investment that we've put in place to drought-proof South East Queensland.
Yep.
That money has to be repaid because they are in the form of loans, and what we've done is being transparent about those bulk water charges.
Okay, Minister, can I just interrupt you here? And I know we're going from power to water and back again, but while we've got you, and obviously we've got a lot of people's attention this morning in what has been quite an extended chat, Carol from Arundel's given me a bell. Carol, you've just got a comment on power prices that you'd like to put to the Minister. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Carol.
18 months ago, we put a solar hot water system on our roof, and it's wonderful. Haven't had to use anything else but solar. However, my old hot water system